Stepping out onto any busy sidewalk in a modern global megacity, whether you find yourself in flashing intersection of Shibuya in Tokyo, the grand historic Rio Boulevard of Paris, or the rigid red lines of Manhattan in New York, stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and look around you. You see concrete sidewalk, steel traffic barriers, giant glass storefronts, structured public benches, and color crossing signals. To the casual, untrained eye, these daily elements appear completely neutral. They look like simple, utilitarian choice made by local city planning council to keep the traffic flowing and the urban landscape clean. But you are about to discover a deeply fascinating hidden truth. The modern megacity is not a neutral backdrop for your life. It is an active, invisible maze. Every single corner you turn, every crosswalk, distance you measure with your step, every ambient light color that illuminates the street above your head, and even the precise physical curve of the bend you choose to raise has been mathematically engineered to do one specific thing: to guide your subconscious mind, alter your immediate emotional state, and manipulate your physical behavior without you ever realizing it happened. We like to believe that we are entirely autonomous, logical individuals. We proudly assume we are in completely control of where we decide to walk, how fast our legs move, what product we choose to buy, and exactly how our moves shift throughout the day. But the environmental psychologists and urban design planners have spent over a century perfecting a highly sophisticated, invisible science, the science of spatial conditioning. The modern metropolis is essentially a massive, open-air laboratory of human behavior, and we are the subject living inside it. The physical architecture of the street is constantly communicating with your subconscious brain, sending quiet instruction directly to your biology. It tells your body when to hurry, when to slow down, exactly where your eyes should look, what items you should desire, and even which space you should avoid. Think carefully about your daily urban journey. Why does walking down a narrow, historic, cobblestone alleyway instantly make your heart rate slow down and bring a sense of comfort? Why standing in the middle of a vast concrete public plaza make you feel small, hyper-exposed, and extremely anxious? Why do you naturally accelerate your walking pace the moment you cross the specific commercial zones, or find yourself wandering aimlessly inside luxury shopping malls for hours, completely losing your internal tracking of time? These are not accidental mood swings or random personal choices. They are pre-calculated emotional reactions. They are the exact predicted outcomes that the urban matrix was constructed to produce. In this 40 minutes deep dive, we are going to open the hidden dossier of urban psychological engineering. We will strip away the familiar, everyday facade of the concrete jungle to reveal the massive, hidden machinery that operates beneath our feet. We will investigate the silent world of hostile architecture, where city governments build physical discomfort directly into the ground to control social geography. We will uncover the secret of the green ethic, a brilliant, disorienting sensory trap used by commercial architects to temporarily bypass your rational brain. We will decode the geopolitical history of how massive empire intentionally redesign the map of their street to prevent civilian revolutions, and we will catch a glimpse of how the predictive smart city of tomorrow are designing invisible algorithms to anticipate your next move. Welcome back to our channel. If you have ever looked at a crowd city and felt that there was a hidden order behind the chaos, then you are already part of this investigation. Let's unlock the secret psychological dossier of the megacity grid. To fully comprehend the deep psychological manipulation that shapes our modern urban lives, we must first learn to read the physical vocabulary that is hidden in plain sight on almost every sidewalk, transit hub, and public park. It is the controversial design philosophy known to urban sociologists as hostile architecture or defensive design. It is the highly calculated practice of intentionally structuring public events so that they became physically uncomfortable, restrictive, or even painful to use for an extended period of time. The next time you walk through a municipal plaza or wait outside a train terminal, train your eyes to look past the overall aesthetic and focus on the small detail of the furniture. You will frequently notice that public benches are no longer made of warm, inviting wood grains. Instead, they are constructed from cold, raw concrete or heavy, unyielding stainless steel. More importantly, you will see that these seats are regularly fitted with heavy metal bars, ridges, or sharp armrests positioned exactly every 2 feet along the bench surface. To the casual passerby, these dividers look perfectly innocent. They appear to be simple armrests designed for personal comfort or to mark individual seating boundaries. But under the lens of spatial psychology, their true engineered purpose is entirely exclusive. They are placed there are physical barriers to prevent a human body from lying down flat. Their structural method is designed to quietly banish specific demographics such as the vulnerable, the weary, or the homeless from the public eyes, pushing them out of the clean, commercial tourist center of the city. If you shift your gaze from the plazas to the local bus shelters, you will find an even more radical transformation of human posture. In many modern megacities, the traditional horizontal bands had vanished entirely. In its place, engineers have installed narrow, slick metal shelves that are tilted forward at a steep 45-degree angle. Architects call these leaning perches. You cannot sit on them. Your body cannot relax its muscle. You can only lean your lower back against the cold metal bar, supporting the vast majority of your own physical weight with your legs while you wait. The structural geometry of the shelter is physically forcing your body to remain alert, mobile, and transient. The message written into the metal is clear. You are permitted to consume transportation here, but you are absolutely forbidden from staying. As you explore deeper into the underside of cities' infrastructure, beneath the massive concrete highway overpasses or next to the entry gates of corporate skyscraper, you will find that the empty ground itself has been weaponized. Space that once offered basic overhead shelter from rain or wind are now systematically bathed with rows of sharp, jagged volcanic rocks, fields of heavy concrete cones, or fields of points with metal spikes. This is defensive design operating at its most raw level. The city is using the basic laws of physics, material discomfort, and gravity to police the behaviors of population without needing to deploy a single human security guard. The architecture itself does the patrolling. It silently commands your body to keep moving, ensuring that empty space remains sterile, vacant, and visually predictable. However, the manipulation of human geography within the megacity does not always rely on solid iron, stone, or concrete spikes. Often, the most effective tools of control are completely weightless, invisible, and environmental. Sometimes the city shapes your psychology using nothing more than the physics of light. In several highly populated urban zones, transported intersection and dark historic alley across cities like Tokyo, London, and Glasgow, municipal planners implemented an environmental experiment. They removed the traditional warm orange-yellow streetlights and replaced them with intense, cold, monochromatic blue light lightning. The psychological and sociological impact of this simple lightning shift was immediate, dramatic, and deeply documented. On a primitive biological level, high-intensity blue light instantly suppressed the human brain's production of melatonin, sending a sudden chemical signal to the body to increase alertness and raise subconscious tension. But the macro-psychological effect was even more profound. Blue light completely altered the emotional atmosphere of the space. It instantly stripped away the warm, private, and nocturnal feel of a night street, replacing it with the sterile, hyper-monitors aesthetic of a modern hospital operating room or a high-security prison corridor. When the blue lights turn on, data collected by local municipalities show an unprecedented sharp drop in street crime, antisocial behavior, and public disturbance at the exact coordinates. Why did this happen? Because the cold blue wavelength triggers an autonomic, deep-seated psychological perception of being watched, evaluated, and exposed under a medical spotlight. The city successfully policed the behavioral choice of thousands of citizens using nothing but a simple shift in the color spectrum. When we zoom out our perspective from these individual street corners and analyze the macro design of entire city maps, we discover that this psychological conditioning is not modern additional. It is embedded into the very historical foundation of our oldest urban grids. The most monumental historical example of macro-spatial manipulation occurred in the 19th century within the heart of Paris. If you were to walk through the streets of Paris before the year 1850, you would have found yourself inside a completely different urban ecosystem. It was a then highly chaotic, organic, medieval labyrinth of incredibly narrow, distinct alleyways, dirt-slick paths, and tightly packed working-class neighborhoods. While this layout was rich with community culture, to the ruling French Empire, it represented an absolute geopolitical and security nightmare. Whenever social unrest sparked or political tension boiled over, the citizens of Paris could easily seize control of their local neighborhoods because the streets were so narrow. A small group of residents could overturn a single wooden cart, pile up furniture, and create an instant impenetrable defensive barricade that blocked the advance of the state authorities. The organic, complex architecture of the medieval city naturally protected the local population and decentralized power. To dismantle this structural vulnerability, Emperor Napoleon III commissioned a ruthless, visionary urban planner named Baron George Eugene Haussmann. Haussmann was given a monumental task: completely demolish the historic medieval map of Paris and redesign the layout of the city to guarantee total state dominance and military efficiency. Haussmann's solution was radical and devastating. He tore out thousands of historic family homes, smashed medieval neighborhoods apart, and carved massive, perfectly straight, and incredibly wide avenues directly through the most rebellious working-class district of city. Today, millions of international tourists walk down Grand Boulevard of Paris, such as the iconic Champs-Élysées, and marvel at their romantic beauty and luxury. But if you look at those boulevards through the lens of tactical urban design, you see an entirely different purpose. Haussmann engineered those avenues to be exceptionally wide that it became mathematically impossible for citizens to build an effective barricade across them. Furthermore, the absolute geometric straightness was designed for the physics of artillery and military movement. It allowed the state's force to march with maximum velocity and establish clear, mile-long lines of sight to eliminate civil unrest from a safe distance. The romantic avenue of Paris were originally drawn on a blueprint as highway for military control. The city was physically reshaped to suppress the human instinct to rebel, proving that the map of a city is always a map of power. When you step off a wide public boulevard of the modern megacity and cross the threshold into its major commercial zones, its soaring glass shopping malls, multi-level department store, and flagship retail environments, the psychological manipulation undergoes a smooth transition. It shifts away from the state's vocabulary of security and control and embraces the highly sophisticated architecture of capital, persuasion, and consumer design. You step across an invisible sensory lines and enter a space completely governed by what environmental psychologists call the consumer cage. Think about your own behavior inside these commercial spaces. Have you ever entered a modern shopping center with a highly logical, disciplined plan to purchase one single accessory item, perhaps a single black t-shirt or a specific charging cable? You knew exactly what you needed, and you knew exactly how much it should cost. But as you step back out through the exit door, 3 hours later, you find yourself holding multiple shopping bags of unplanned, expensive purchase, your wallet drained, and your mind feeling completely dazed, foggy, and physically exhausted. You will likely leaving the mall blaming yourself. You will criticize your lack of willpower, your poor self-discipline, or your impulsive financial decision. But you are being unfair to your own mind. The reality is that you did not make a series of free, independent choices. You were the victim of a highly coordinated, invisible psychological architecture known across the design world as the Gruen effect. This powerful behavioral phenomenon was named after Victor Gruen, a brilliant, visionary Austrian architect who ironically designed the world's very first fully enclosed, climate-controlled suburban shopping malls in the mid-1950s. Ruins was a master of spatial psychology. He understood a profound secret about human nature. If you can design an indoor environment that is complex enough to intentionally disorient a human being's rational, tracking brains, their natural psychological defense against spending money will instantly dissolve. The execution of the Gruen ethics inside a modern commercial complex relies on a strict, hidden set of architectural and spatial rules. The next time you enter a mega mall, look closely at parts beneath your feet. You will quickly realize that the retail walkways are almost never drawn as straight lines. Instead, they curve gentle, subtly, and unpredictably from left to right. This is an intentional design choice. In a straight hallway, the human eye naturally looks far ahead toward the destination, accelerating the body's walking speed to reach the end. But by curving the pathway, the architect forced your field of vision to constantly reset, blocking your view of the exit and directing your eyes inward towards the brilliant, illuminated storefront display. There are almost no shape, 90-degree corners in the main traffic flow, because a soft corner signal a physical ending to the subconscious mind, prompting the brain to pause, evaluate, and potentially turn back. The mall architecture must flow like an endless, looping river, keeping your body in a state of consciousness, unhurried motion. But the most aggressive, brilliant manipulation within the architecture of design is the absolute, systematic eliminations of two critical environmental features that keep human enter to reality: windows and clocks. When you are deep inside a modern commercial shopping matrix, you can almost never see the outside sky. You do not know if the sun is shining brightly, if clouds have gathered, or if a dark night has fallen over the city. There are absolutely no clocks mounted on the grand interior pillars to mark the passing hours. The artificial interior lighting is kept completely uniform. A continuous bright ambient daylight that never changes in intensity or color temperature. By completely removing windows and timepieces, the commercial architect successfully stripped you of your natural circadian rhythm. They disconnect your brain from a physical passage of time and external coordinate of space. You are pulled into a state of psychological suspension, a dreamlike trance known to psychologists as temporal distortion. In this state, your past responsibilities and future anxieties fade into the background, leaving your consciousness entirely focused on the immediate, glittering presentations of the consumer products surrounding you. Your brain is lulled into the state of emotional vulnerability, and when the human mind is cognitive overload and disoriented, its default psychological response is to seek comfort through acquisition. You buy because the architecture has disabled the ability to say no. This commercial conditioning is elevated to a high level of precision through the science of atmospheric engineering. Retail architects do not simply build with physical concrete, steel, and glass. They design with the invisible chemistries of fragrance and the physics of sound. High-end luxury boutique and premium shopping arcades across the globe utilize the advanced marketing technique known as scent architecture. They pump proprietary incredibly complex synthetic fragrance, often featuring deep notes of ambers, clean white, cedarwoods, or expensive raw leather, directly into their centralized heating and ventilation system. These specific stand molecules do not travel to the logical, linguistic parts of the brain. Instead, they bypass the blood-brain barrier and travel directly into your limbic system, the ancient, primitive emotional core of the human mind, where long-term memories, instinctual desires, and emotional attachment are processed. Before you have ever consciously recognized the smell of the boutique, your brain has already associated with the physical space with a deep sense of status, security, and luxury. Simultaneously, the ambient acoustic environment of the commercial cage is constantly monitored and manipulated. During slow, low-traffic morning hours, more intensely broadcast low-tempo music with a rhythm that falls well below the average human resting heartbeat. This acoustic slowdown unconsciously causes your physical step to mimic the music, slowing your walking pace down by up to 15% and keeping your body inside the commercial zone for a longer duration of time. During the chaotic peak hours of the weekend rush, the tempo is shifted upwards to accelerate customer circulation, preventing dangerous bottlenecks at the cash register. The megacity and its retail pockets are literally playing your nervous system like an orchestra, turning human biology into corporate efficiency. As we step out of the commercial trends of the shopping mall and return to the wider layout of the modern megacity, we must look at how the largest urban networks on Earth manage the psychology of millions of citizens simultaneously through the sheer geometry of their maps. If you analyze the structural layouts of global capitals, you will find two completely opposing spatial philosophies, each designed to produce a totally different type of human psychology. The first philosophy is the rigid grid system, beautifully epitomized by the map of Manhattan in New York City, laid out in the famous Commissioner Plan of 1811. Manhattan was carved into a highly predictable mathematical matrix of straight, intersecting avenues and numbered streets. To the human mind walking through a grid city, the spatial experience is one of the pure, transparent logic. You always know exactly where you are in relation to the rest of the map. If you are on 23rd Street and want to reach 42nd Street, your brain instantly calculated the exact distance and energy required. Psychologists have found that this total spatial predictability creates a highly specific type of urban mentality, the fast-paced, highly efficient, and future-focused urban citizen in a grid city because the space offers zero mystery. The mind does not look around or wander. It focuses entirely on destination. The human body accelerates. The grid turns the city into an efficient factory of movement, maximizing human production and speed. But if you travel across the Atlantic and walk through the streets of London, you enter the second, completely opposite spatial philosophy, the organic radio web. London was not designed by mathematical counsel. It grew over thousands of years like a wide root system, following old medieval coal paths, ancient riverbeds, and historic property boundaries. When you walk through London, the street constantly changes name without warning, curve unpredictably, and terminal in sudden dead ends. To a human being navigating an organic web city, the spatial experience is one of the total mid-disorientation. But this complexity produces a completely different psychological outcome than the grid, because you cannot rely on simple mathematics to navigate. Your brain is forced to look up, analyze landmarks, read the unique architecture of shop fronts, and pay deep attention to the local environment. Studies show that citizens in organic cities walk slower, possess a higher memory recall of environmental details, and experience a stronger sense of local neighborhood identity. The chaotic maps force the human mind to become present, turning a simple walk into an act of continuous exploration. However, whether a city is viewed as a rigid mathematical grid or chaotic on a one organic web, the modern megacity is currently undergoing the most radical psychological transformation in human history. The architecture of control is escaping the boundaries of solid physical materials and entering the invisible realm of digital data and artificial intelligence. We're entering the era of the predictive panopticon. The advanced smart cities of the 21st century, such as Singapore, London, and Seoul in South Korea, are no longer just static arrangements of stones, glass, and asphalt. They have transformed into living, constantly calculating digital organisms. Every single time you tap your smart transit card to pass through a subway gate, every time your smartphone automatically ping a public Wi-Fi router on a street corner, and every time you walk beneath a high-definition municipal camera, you're feeding a continuous stream of biological data in a centralized urban brain. Urban engineers and corporate data scientists are utilizing this immense ocean of human data to construct what is known across the tech sector as digital twins of the megacity. This is a real-time, terrifying, accurate, and fully stimulated virtual model of the entire city's infrastructure and population movements. By analyzing the collective data and tracking the real-time heat maps of millions of moving human bodies, powerful artificial intelligence algorithms can now predict with incredible precision exactly where the traffic bottleneck will form, where a public crowd will gather, and even where a civic disturbance is statistically likely to manifest before it even ever occur in reality. The city is no longer merely responding to your physical behavior. It is actively anticipating your future psychological choices. The physical infrastructure of the near future will adapt its form in real time, subtly altering digital street signs, shifting public transit schedule, and adjusting the color temperature of streetlights to fluidly guide crowds away from high-density zones and steer them towards specific commercial pockets. The physical maze of the city is becoming sentient. It is learning to rewrite itself around your subconscious mind. But what happens when the human mind can no longer bear the rigid discipline of the mathematical grid or the constant surveillance of the predictive panopticon? When the sensory overload of the megacity reaches a boiling point, humanity's ancient biological software does not simply crash, it triggers an architectural escape mechanism. This profound psychological exhaustion gave birth to one of the most significant spatial transformations of the modern era, the invention of the suburban simulations and the rise of gated community. Following the industrial density of the early 20th century, a massive psychological migration occurred. Millions of urban inhabitants look at the concrete verticality of the inner cities and experience a deep, systemic desire to retreat back to a landscape that felt closer to nature, safety, and predictability. The solution engineered by 20th century planners was a suburb, a vast horizontal expansion of identical single-family homes, manicured green lawns, and curving cul-de-sacs, completely separated from the commercial and industrial zones of the urban center. Under the lens of neuroarchitecture and spatial behavioral science, the suburb was designed to be the ultimate physical sedative for the anxious urban mind. Notice the specific geometry of suburban road design. The streets are rarely straight. They curve in wide, sweeping loops, intentionally terminating in dead-end circles known as cul-de-sacs. This layout was not created by accident. The cul-de-sac is modern architectural reincarnations of the ancient village perimeter of the defensive cave honeycomb. By creating an isolated, circular road with only one single point of entry and exit, the architecture automatically eliminates through traffic, drops the ambient noise of the wider world to near zero, and creates an instant, powerful psychological bubble of local territorial control. Inside the cul-de-sac, your brain recognizes that every passing vehicle or pedestrian is either a trusted neighbor or a visible stranger. The environmental uncertainty that triggers the amygdala on a chaotic city street is systematically engineered out of the landscape. However, as decades pass, this drive of spatial installation evolves into an even more intense architectural manifestation, hyper-fortified domesticity. Across the globe, the wealthy elites began abandoning open suburban neighborhoods to retreat behind the monumental walls of exclusive gated communities. These enclaves are characterized by heavy stone perimeter barriers, black wrought iron gates, automated biometric checkpoints, and private security guards patrolling the boundaries 24 hours a day. Psychologically, the gate community functions as a highly sophisticated spatial simulations of innocence and total predictability. Inside these walls, the messy, unpredictable realities of socio-economic inequality, urban frictions, and spontaneous human interactions are entirely filtered out. The architecture provides a curated, sterile ecosystem where every lawn is precisely cut to the same height. Every house shares the same uniform color palette, and every moving element is carefully verified by a digital ledger at the gate. It is a desperate attempt to manufacture absolute peace of mind through total spatial segregation. But environmental psychologists have discovered a fascinating unintended side effect to this extreme fortification. When you live inside a hyper-protected environment that completely eliminates all minor discomforts and predictable variations, your baseline psychological tolerance for uncertainty drastically drops. By hiding behind digital moats and stone walls, citizens often find that their subjective fears of the outside world actually intensifies. The heavier the gate at the entrance, the more terrifying the territory beyond the wall begins to feel. This realization has sparked the latest, most profound architectural counter-revolutions of our current decades, the Great Off-Grid Exodus. Today, a rapidly growing demographic of global citizens is choosing to completely disconnect from both the urban grids and the suburban simulations, enabled by decentralized digital technologies, remote work infrastructure, and a deep hunger for psychological survival. People are engaging in what sociologists call spatial rewilding. They are abandoning the high-rise glass apartment and the gated suburb to build tiny homes, off-grid cabins, and eco-sanctuaries deep within the unmanaged geography of nature, in the mountains, beside forests, and along isolated coastlines. This exodus is ultimate modern manifestation of our story's the very first chapter. It is a full circle return to the original limestone cave, but updated with 21st century engineering. When a modern digital professional builds a light timber cabin surrounded by wine pine trees, utilizing natural ventilation, solar power, and large glass window facing a quiet lake, they are consciously resetting their biological software. They're intentionally stepping out of an environment designed to manipulate their behavior and stepping into an environment designed to heal their nervous system. They are choosing an architecture that does not police them with hostile metal spike or disorient them with commercial traps, but rather an architecture that harmonizes with their evolutionary biology. They are providing that in a world of total digital connections and urban control, the ultimate luxury and the ultimate form of physical and psychological safety is the sovereign freedom to disconnect. When we step back and evaluate the massive 5,000 years history of global urban design, we are confronted with a profound, undeniable realization. The megacity has never been just a practical, innocent arrangement of zone and shelter designed to keep humankind, facilitate trade, or accelerate corporate careers. The city is a physical mold that is intentionally constructed to reshape the human soul. From a defensive mud brick honeycombs of ancient Catalhoyok to the tactical anti-revolutionary boulevards of Baron Haussmann in Paris, the consumer traps of Victor Gruen's shopping malls, and the predictive algorithms of tomorrow's smart grid, architecture has always been the ultimate, invisible technology used to govern the human mind. But understanding the inner mechanics of this spatial machinery is the first and most critical step towards reclaiming your psychological autonomy. The next step is the next time you're stepping out your apartment and walk down a city street, I challenge you to pause your steps for just 10 seconds. Look past the glittering stone fronts, the moving traffic, and the concrete porch. Train your eyes to see the invisible design. Notice its shaped metal stud on the concrete planter box. Notice the sterile, cold blue glow of the street lamp overhead. Notice the gentle, winding curve of the commercial hallway and ask your consciousness one vital question. Am I walking down this specific path because I truly choose to, or because the architecture of the city has already made the decision for me? The modern megacity is one of the most magnificent, beautiful testament to human genius, engineering, and global cooperation in history. It is a soaring monument to what our species can achieve when we build together. But it remains a landscape of intense, calculated control. By learning to read the invincible psychological vocabulary of human design, you transform yourself from a passive, conditioned subject inside a laboratory into an active, conscious explorer of the modern world. You learn to rewrite the maze on your own terms. Thank you so much for spending this vital time with us today, opening the psychological dossier of our cities. Building YouTube channel focused on in-depth content like this is always a long-term journey, and the companionship of thoughtful viewers like you is my greatest asset. If this deep dive completely changed the way you look at your daily city commute, and if you want to discover more hidden systems that silently direct our psychology, history, and modern lives, please share this documentary with a friend, an architect, or anyone you know who lives in a city. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss on our next spatial exploration. We have lots more secrets to unlock together. Until next time, keep your eyes wide open, look closer at the concrete boundaries around you, and remember, the most important territory you will ever protect is the total sovereignty of your own mind. Goodbye, and see you in the next deep dive.